Hello everyone, good morning. We are from Group 1. So we want to present our discussion about the production of the English consonants. So before we present our mind map, we are going to introduce ourselves. My name is Alivia Rizky.
My name is Febriana Nurul Puspita.
My name is Adinda Zara Salsabila.
My name is Nabila Sofiana Ainingrum.
My name is Betanana Witrinana Putri.
And my name is Latifa Azahra. I want to explain about the larynx. The larynx, also known as the voice box, is an organ in the top of the neck, involving in breathing, sound producing, etc. In the larynx, there are organs called the cartilages, which are needed for airflow from and to the lungs. Two main cartilages are cricoid and thyroid cartilages. The second is vocal folds. There are two vocal folds, one at the left and one at the right. There are a space called glottis, which will open up at normal breathing and certain speech sound. For the sound F, for example, air flows out rapidly through the open glottis. The third is voiced and voiceless sounds. Vowels such as I and A are contributed by vibrating folds. Consonants come in both voiced and voiceless sounds. For example, comparing F and V, the difference is that V voiced because it has vowels at its end, and F is voiceless. And the last one is vibration of the vocal folds. The series of events of a complete cycle of vibration are: first, the vocal folds are together and stops the airflow. Then, the air from beneath pushes up between the folds, forcing them apart near the middle. And a burst of air flows through, but this began to be cut off because the folds back to the closed position. I think that's all from me. And for the next material will be delivered by my friend Alivia Rizky.
Okay, thank you Latifa. So I want to explain the next material. So the fourth one is observing vocal fold vibration. It is very useful for many purposes to observe what actually happens when the vocal folds are vibrating. For instance, if a speaker is having trouble with producing vocal fold vibration, normally observation of the vibration pattern may give a clue to what is wrong with the larynx. Some languages use different types of vocal fold vibration to signal the difference between one word and the other. There are two techniques for observing vocal fold vibration. The first one is the laryngograph. Vocal fold vibration can be detected and measured with a device called the laryngograph. It works by passing a tiny high-frequency electric current across the larynx from one fold to the other. The degree of contact between the folds controls the current, which can be measured and turned into a waveform showing the vibration. The device is completely non-invasive and harmless. The electrodes are simply placed comfortably on the outside of the neck, either side of thyroid cartilage, and include contact. And the last one is stroboscope. The vibrating vocal folds can be filmed, but a very high film speed is needed to show the details of vibration. The last one is the fifth one is voicing in languages. Voice and voiceless sounds are to be heard in all languages. And for the most part, languages make use of differences between voice and voiceless consonants, like that already pointed of our English. There are certain language where the voicing and voicelessness of consonant can't make a difference to meaning because it is largely an automatic consequence of the position of a consonant within a word. The initial sound can be made voice with no change meaning. Diction. Okay, I think that's all. For the next will be explained by my friend Nabila.
Okay, thank you. In here, I want to tell about two subtitle. The first is whisper, and the second a periodic wave. The first, whisper. Whisper is not the same as voicelessness. To whisper sound, we make a narrow opening between the folds and airflow noisily through the opening, and the noise from airflow replaces the tone produced by voice. The pros that whisper and voiceless are different. Try compare the sequence Ava with F and Ava with V. If V in the whisper there is a narrow glottis and airflow noise. Different with F, the glottis is often allowing our air to flow freely even though we whisper or no. Uh, Periodic wave. Periodic wave. The waveforms of voice and voiceless sounds are quite different. A wave that has pattern that repeat regularly in time is called periodic. Periodic wave is a wave with a repeating continuous pattern which determine its wavelength and frequency. It is characterized by the amplitude, a period, and a frequency. And the second subtitle is a periodic wave. Uh, a periodic wave is not all sound have a periodic waveforms. A waveforms that doesn't repeat a long time exists is termed a periodic. Uh, I think enough for my material for the next, my friends.
Now we move on to place of articulation. The first, we will begin a brief tour of the vocal tract. We begin with the lips. Notice that you can move both your upper and your lower lips. You can also round your lips and protrude them. For the next stage of tour, we will be concerned with the roof of the oral cavity. You can get an idea of the shape of this by moving the tip of your tongue slowly back. As you move your tongue tip further back, you may be able to feel that the roof of the mouth becomes soft. For articulation and place will be explained by Adin.
Thank you, Fabriana. So I'm going to continue Fabriana's explanation. Okay, let's move on to the second topic. The second topic is articulation. Uh, Articulation is referred to constriction of the vocal tract during the production of speech sound. There are two types of articulators, passive articulators and active articulators. Passive, and then let's move on to the third topic. It's a place. Place is the location in the vocal tract where an articulation occurs. Uh, there are 11 types of places in articulation. The first one is bilabial. Bilabial is both the upper and lower lips are active articulators. For example, P, B, and M are bilabial sound. And the second one is labiodental. The active articulators is in the lower lip and the passive is in the edge of the upper front teeth. For example, like F and V are labiodental sounds. And the third one is dental. The active articulation is in the tongue tip. The passive is in the back or the edge of the upper front teeth. And the example is thing or though are dental sound. And then the next one is alveolar. Um, the active one is the active articulators is in tip or the blade of the tongue. The passive one is in the alveolar ridge. And then the example is TDNLSZ. The next one is pastalveolar. The active articulation is located in tongue tip or blade, and the passive is in the rear of alveolar ridge. And then the next one, there's retroflex. The active one is the active articulators is in the tongue tip. The passive one is in the hard palate. This type of sound does not occur in most accents of English, but occurs in Indian accents. And then move to the next one. There's palatal. Um, the active articulators is in the tongue front, and then the passive one is in the hard palate. And then there's pharyngeal. The active articulators is located in tongue root, and the passive is in the rear wall of pharynx. And the last one is glottal. The active articulators is located in vocal folds, and there's no passive articulators. I think that's enough from me. For the next material will be explained by my friends Febriana.
Thank you, Adin. So after that, we have complex articulation. So far, articulation we have met have been simple in the sense of that they have only one constriction in the vocal tract and involve only one pair of articulators. However, some speech sounds are more complex than this. As an illustration, let's look at what happens in sound W as the beginning of the English word well. If you look in a mirror and saying this sound, you should see that your lips are rounded and Bluetooth. So there is a bilabial articulation going on. Next, homogenic sounds. Sounds that have the same active and passive articulators are said to be homogenic sounds. For example, T, D, N, L, S, and Z are homogenic since they all have the expect to see for a filler sound such as key. In then the next will be explained by Eta.
Okay, thank you, Fabiana. I will continue to the next topic. The next topic is instrumental techniques. In this part, I'm going to explain about the techniques that is used to know what are the articulators used for speech sounds. The first technique is electropalatography. This involves the speaker wearing a specially made false palate in which a number of electrodes are embedded. The electrodes are sensitive to the contact by the speaker's tongue. The outputs of the electrodes are continuously monitored by computer while the speaker is talking, and the resulting analysis is displayed as a series of figures known as palatograms. The second technique is X-ray, an X-ray photograph showing the vocal tract. It is often quite difficult to see the details of articulations on X-rays, and one needs quite a lot of experiences to make sense of the pictures. And the third technique is magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI. Put very simply, this involves placing the subject in an imager which applies a very strong magnetic field to the body. The field causes the vast majority of protons of hydrogen atoms to line up in the direction of the subject's head or feet. Most of the magnetic fields created by these hydrogen protons are cancelled out by a proton lined up in the opposite direction. The machine applies a radio frequency pulse specific to hydrogen, and this causes the uncalled protons to resonate at a particular frequency. The last part is places of articulations used in language of the word. Quite a few languages use only 3 places of articulation for stops, and the most popular places are bilabial, alveolar or dental, and velar. English uses 4 places of articulations for stops, which is bilabial, alveolar, postalveolar, and velar. Places of articulation can be ranked according to their occurrence in the stop systems of the world's languages. The order from the most frequent is alveolar or dental, velar, bilabial, palatal, uvular, retroflex, and then others. And so that was the end of our presentation about the production of the English consonant. And if you have questions, you can ask it in the e-learning forum. Thank you for watching and listening to our group presentation.